Alright guys, a nice little short long playing review for the Amstrad CPC today, and this is Assault on Port Stanley from Amsoft software in 1985 and later re-released on disc as well. And this is actually quite a cool little game, and it was brought to my attention because of, I think there was a topic of discussion on the CPC wiki forums asking if the classic Atari game River Raid had ever been ported to the Amstrad, and someone suggested this game featured like a River Raid style sequence, and it does. It actually features quite a few different sort of game types, mixing together Beachhead, 1942 and River Raid. And there's three sections. This is the first section where you're in control of your fleet of ships, well, in one ship in particular. And we're basically moving closer and closer towards the enemy ships and the Port Stanley, which we will be assaulting. And all we can do here, guys, is move left and right and then fire our guns. 3 hits on a ship and it sinks. And this is kind of like the beachhead section, really, which was like the first section in Beachhead, which also features sort of mini games. Oh no, sorry, it was the second section in Beachhead, I think it was. Anyway, eventually we'll get some planes attacking us as well, which means we're getting close to Port Stanley. And basically, to avoid the gunfire, you want to be moving away from them in the same direction as they're moving, and if an enemy ship has fired at you, that should miss you, like so. You can take off with your helicopter, which is the second part of the game, and take to a sort of 1942 style horizontally scrolling shoot 'em up by pressing the space bar at any time. But you may run out of fuel, and you may not have got as close to Port Stanley as you needed to be. When we start seeing planes appearing in the sky, that means we're actually nearing Port Stanley itself. But the more ships you destroy, the less planes you'll have to fight in the air in the next section. So whilst our damage is relatively low, we're going to try and get through as many ships as possible. Now, this is obviously based around sort of the Falkland Island conflict between well, Britain and Argentina in the early 80s. I know very little about the conflict, to be honest with you. It was sort of started before I was born, so I'm not going to make any political comment. All I can tell you guys is that Port Stanley is sort of the only city and the capital of the Falkland Islands, and this is where the final battle was staged, where the British basically took back the Falklands by taking over Port Stanley, and the Argentinians basically surrendered. As you can see, actually there, guys, we've got some planes in the sky now, so after a while it automatically switches to the helicopter section, which is kind of like a 1942 plane, and it's very well done. Okay, it's really simple. All we've got is one blue background and sky, but as long as the action is good, then you know, I can live with that for a game as early as 1985. And it moves and plays rather well. And for a game of its age, it's really refreshing to see sort of 3 different game types. And because we destroyed most of the ships, there's not many planes we have to fight there. And this is the final section, which is basically River Raid on the Amstrad CPC. And what we need to do, guys, is dock at the side there, fuel up and collect our soldiers who have already sort of invaded the island and are saboteurs. And the more soldiers you pick up, the more points that you get at the end of the game. And of course you need to refuel. And this is quite a tricky little section, this. And again, plays and moves, scrolls really well. Simple, colourful graphics, but they do the job, and I'm okay with that for a game that was released in 1985. Unfortunately, I don't know much about the programmer. His name was Edgar Belka, but unfortunately it looks like he didn't do any other games for the Amstrad, which is a shame, because this is a pretty darn good effort actually. It is relatively short, as you've seen probably from the length of the video. The game repeats over, and I think it probably just slightly increases in difficulty. So it just loops over and over, I believe. So we're just going through one loop for this long play. This section is actually rather tricky actually. There's an awful lot of things in your way, airships and other ships. But I made it easier than it looked. It looks pretty easy than it actually plays. But that's it. That's essentially the game completed, and that was actually quite good fun actually. And that's pretty good for 1985, and pretty damn good for Amsoft as well, which produced a lot of crap. So the game loops over. But yeah, I'm going to give this 7 out of 10. Thanks for watching.